good evening, everybody. Kevin Crouch here with South Metro Weather. I thought we had a little more time, and I thought I might actually get a little bit of rest before we had to actually go live here. But we have this storm. Now, granted, this is on the far western sides of our area, but this could make its way east enough, particularly if this storm continues this weakening trend that it appears to possibly be on. It could just be recycling at this time, but we'll have to watch it. But if it continues on, that could push farther to the east and make it more of a track towards parts of Glenrose and then eventually parts of Johnson and Hill counties here. So right now in northern Erath County, this storm warned for golf ball size hail and 60-mile-per-hour winds possible. That's what we're watching here. Of course, there are storms up in the Metroplex as well, but we are focused on this one right here. We do have a severe thunderstorm watch that was issued, and that is in place until 9 p.m. So we could see, it is possible that we could see more storms. I'm a little doubtful that we will at this point. This is off an outflow boundary that came from the storms up closer to the Wichita Falls area. So this particular storm will continue to make its way to the southeast. And no, I do not expect this storm or others to impact the potential for storms we have later tonight. Those moving in around 11, 12 o'clock overnight tonight and moving out presumably by 3 a.m. or so. They're actually moving quite quickly, so once they get here, they won't be here for long, but those storms will have the damaging wind threat. Right now, what we're looking at, this is mostly a hail threat here. We've seen some rotation off and on with this storm. Nothing in that regard particularly going on right now. But we are seeing, as I say, a hail threat with this storm, but it does look like it might be on a little bit of a weakening trend. Sometimes those weakening trends don't take very long. Sometimes we will see those actually recycle very quickly after they weaken. So we will continue to monitor this particular storm. Again, you can see the track pretty well with this severe thunderstorm warning. But again, this assumes that we will continue to see this continue to take that right turn. I'm doomed, folks. If I'm already tired and we got a whole long night ahead of us, but we'll watch this moving to the right. Continuing to take that track, but if it does weaken, that could take more of an easterly track, more towards Glenrose and Whitney and Hillsborough later on this evening. But right now, looks like it's just moving southeast, more towards southern portions of Erath County, far southwestern Granbury, far southwestern Hood County, I should say. Somervell County, most of that county there, and then into Bosque County, and eventually possibly towards McLennan County. We'll see how long this one lasts. This is off of an outflow boundary from those storms up near Wichita Falls. So sometimes those storms don't exactly last as long as the storms perhaps later tonight that have more of a driving force behind them. The storms that are on a cold front, for example, they have that lifting mechanism that sticks with them. This one kind of coming off of that lifting mechanism, so sometimes these are not going to last as long. Again, just to address this, I don't expect these storms to affect the severe weather threat we have later tonight. That's going to be kind of its own deal. So I am not looking at this to impact that. I am not looking at this to somehow let us off the hook. But we are still looking at storms overnight tonight. I am still expecting storms to be likely as we go through the 11 o'clock to 3 a.m., 11 p.m. to 3 a.m. time period later tonight. Those storms still on the way. We just have this little bit of a preliminary look here at a storm that, again, looks to stay west of our core area, but it is kind of in our region here. So I wanted to make sure that people were watching this very closely. We did a live update not too long ago, maybe a couple hours ago, and that covered the storms later tonight. So if you need more details on that, I would encourage you to go back and check that out. Go back and look at some of the posts that we put earlier today. We've really not had any change with that later event. And so any of the information that we have posted about the midnight event tonight, really nothing has changed there. So all of that information does still appear to be valid. And Matt Waller, again, I do not expect the storms in our area or north of us to affect those storms that we will see later tonight. Nathan, if you want to go back to our earlier, we spoke about derechos and those damaging winds at length, so I would encourage you to go watch that earlier live stream for more information on that. You can see this storm up in Collin County, actually Denton County, far western Collin County there, near Flower Mountain. If you want to look at that storm in that particular area, that is very quickly weakening there. So we could see that with this particular storm. It could continue to be intense, but I don't expect this one to be around for too terribly long at this point. So this storm does have a severe thunderstorm warning with it, and I do not believe that intensity on that warning has updated at this point. Haley, thank you so much for the Venmo donation. Greatly appreciated there. Yeah, so they still have, and we talked about this earlier, they still have this considerable severe weather threat with this one, and that is owing to the golf ball size hail threat. So that's what we're watching with this particular severe thunderstorm warning, but that is one of those escalated severe thunderstorm warning threats. I want to take a look at a couple of things in this storm. Let's look at the velocity first. And we have seen a few of these storms that, or a few opportunities really for some rotation in this storm. None have appeared to be very consistent. So I'm not too concerned about rotation at this moment. I don't see anything that is too terribly concerning at this moment. But the greater threat is going to be that hail threat. And you can see quite a bit of hail in that storm right now. So that's going to be the primary worry with this storm. I'm not looking at winds that are too terribly intense at this time, but the hail is definitely there. Trying to look at the comments here. Yeah, Nathan, I mean, you're preaching to the choir. Yeah, it's just moving more south. That's that right turn that we talked about with this particular storm. And as this continues to move to the southeast, again, I'm not entirely sure how long this will hold its intensity, but it will not affect the storms that we will see later tonight. I know there's a lot of folks that really want that to be the case, really want to see this storm, something affect the late night event, and unfortunately there's just not any kind of indication that we're going to get rid of that later severe weather threat. That's just not what we're expecting. I do expect to see those storms arriving around 11 p.m. midnight, especially in our northern counties, and then on from there, but ultimately moving out of our area by 3 to 4 a.m. So the forecast as far as that later event has generally stayed the same and likely will stay the same as we go through the rest of the evening. But I just want to make sure that you see this storm. Right now it does continue to take that southeast track, which will keep it out of our core counties. It looks to stay west of Johnson and Hill counties here. It does look to move into parts of Bosque County and Somervell County here as it progresses to the southeast. This severe thunderstorm warning continues for about another 43 minutes here. So that's going to put it ending right about 6:45. So let me get that little box off of there. So until 6:45. So presumably closer to 7 o'clock by the time it's really moving into Bosque County. Let me see here. You might have been over this, but can you go over our risks from highest to lowest? So Haley, you're probably talking about overnight tonight. So again, we've done several posts on that. We did the live stream about a couple of hours ago. That will cover all of that. That's there to watch. So again, if you need information on that, none of that has changed. So that earlier information that we have posted will cover that. So this is a severe thunderstorm that has been very well organized here. What I will say though is, again, the rotation on this storm has not been able to organize itself very well. So fortunately, we're not looking much of a tornado threat at this time, not that I have seen. We are looking at a large hail threat with this storm. That's primarily the concern with this one. Not really looking at much in terms of winds either. We could see 50 to 60 mile per hour wind gusts with this storm, but I'm not really seeing too much to be concerned about with this one. And then just to answer the most common question that I've been getting, I am not expecting this storm to preempt anything that we are expecting later tonight. It does look like we're getting some gustier winds, so we could be looking at 50 plus mile per hour wind gusts in the core of that storm. I'm still not seeing any kind of well-organized rotation. There's some turbulence there, but I'm not seeing anything that is getting too terribly organized that has me too terribly concerned about this particular storm. And let me check this here. Jared, thank you so much for your Venmo donation. That is greatly appreciated. So I want to take a look at the hail core here. So the hail core not budging at all here. It's staying the same, so doesn't look like it's weakening too terribly much as it moves to the southeast. That storm in Denton County fell apart pretty quickly. And so this one here, at least at this point, does look to be holding itself together. But it is staying at this point, for the most part, west of our core area. Of course, our core counties are western Navarro, western Johnson County, western Hill County. Those are the areas to be kind of watching this, but it does look like it will stay away from there for the most part. Megan, you're asking, you know the risk, say 80 to 100, you're talking about later tonight. Are those sustained throughout the storm or the leading edge? So as we had discussed earlier, and again, I would encourage you to go watch the live stream that we had earlier tonight where we explained a lot of those things in depth, but those are gusts possible on the leading edge of the storm. So that's going to be later tonight around midnight. So that's what you have to pay attention to. Those arriving again 11 to 12 o'clock tonight, and then earlier in the morning, probably moving out by 3 to 4 a.m. So this storm, this is the supercell that we are watching here. And again, you're probably seeing this notch here, but we have not been seeing much in terms of sustained organized rotation. So I'm not terribly concerned about that with this particular storm. I think that we will see that kind of off and on here. Anytime you have a supercell like this, generally those are going to be rotating, but it's the low-level organized rotation that you really have to be worried about, and we're not really seeing that with this storm at this time. Not so much in the way that we would be concerned about with a tornado threat. Now, we are looking at winds that are fairly intense here. We're, again, probably looking at 50 plus mile per hour winds in this particular storm here. So as that moves southeastward, be prepared for 50 to 60 mile per hour winds with this storm. Those could be the gusts that we see from this one. And then, but just not really seeing any kind of sustained, rotation with this one. We're going to see some little hooks and things, but at this point, I'm not immediately seeing anything to be concerned about. Awol Rose, what time did the storms are supposed to be here? Did that time change yet? It has not changed. It's the same as what we said earlier, looking at about 11 or 12 o'clock as far as when those late night storms will be moving in. And again, you can go see more of those details in the live stream we had about a couple of hours ago that discussed that threat in more detail here. We do again have this severe thunderstorm watch that was issued, and that goes until 9 o'clock, but I'll show you that there's really not much in our area here. Just this one storm off to the west that will continue to move on to the southeast. Does look like it's for the most part going to avoid our area here, and that will continue to move on to the southeast as we watch this thing move towards Somervell County, southern Erath County, northern Bosque County. We've got plenty of lightning with it. Decent hail threat. Again, this is warned for the possibility of golf ball sized hail in that area. I haven't seen any official hail sizes out of that. We have some storms off to the north as well. So from Denton and Collin counties on up to the Red River, up towards Paris. And that Denton County storm really has not been able to hold on to much intensity there. And that's what I was talking about. Sometimes these storms, when they pop up on an outflow boundary, they go on for a while and then they kind of get knocked out because they don't have that source of lift there. So no storms in our immediate area. Those folks in Ellis County, Johnson, Hill, or Navarro, not seeing anything in those areas. For now, it looks like this storm is going to continue that southeasterly track, that right turn that it established after it was developed. But if it weakens, then it could get caught up in that more easterly track, and that could push it into our area. But for the moment, it looks like it is staying to our west, and I'll continue to monitor that one. The severe thunderstorm watch that we have right now does not address the storms that are coming in later tonight. That will be as we watch this thing continue to develop far to our northwest. We will likely get another watch later tonight. They could make that a tornado watch later tonight. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that tornadoes are more likely. I think sometimes the Storm Prediction Center and the National Weather Service will issue a tornado watch to get you thinking about strong winds. But for the most part, I think that the damaging wind threat will pretty much be the primary concern overnight. Thank you to April for your Venmo donation. Greatly appreciate that there. But again, overnight, still looking at those storms arriving around 11 or 12 o'clock. Still expecting those to be a damaging wind threat, and I am not expecting this storm or others to affect the threat of severe weather overnight tonight. But this storm going to continue on to the southeast, going to move towards the Glen Rose area, at least maybe clip Glen Rose. The strongest part of the storm looks to continue to move on almost right along the Erath County, Hood, and Somervell County lines here, further on to the southeast, moving into northern Bosque County. Whitney, I would say keep an eye on this storm, but I don't really expect Whitney to be impacted from this one. It looks like it will continue to move to the southeast, and then possibly, if it holds on that long, maybe move towards parts of McLennan County. But for the moment, doesn't look like it is going to do a whole lot more. So stay tuned to South Metro Weather. I'm going to continue to monitor this storm. For the moment, looks like it's mostly behaving itself. Looks like it's probably, I wouldn't expect this one to last too much longer here. I think as it gets into Bosque County, we'll probably start to see that thing start to weaken and maybe diminish a little bit. But we'll continue to watch this storm and continue to bring updates about the storms overnight tonight. Again, nothing has changed. Still expecting storms arriving around 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock tonight, leaving our area by 3 or 4 a.m. Damaging winds will be the primary concern with that storm, with 80 to 100 mile per hour winds possible with those strongest storms. Stay tuned to South Metro Weather as we have more live coverage coming your way later tonight.
Smile upon your face, and I see something shimmering in your eyes. And they say if you want to glimpse the future, you need space. And you said you'll put down your morning guns. Would you follow me to wander? Take my hand and walk beside me in a world of thunder. Fear is an imposter. When you look at me this way, I find it hard to not